Everyone, welcome to the REsimpli Launch Control webinar, your seven-figure assembly system. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to get logged on and into the session. You have the ability to ask us questions in the chat, so just give us the thumbs up. Let us know that you're there listening. Let's get the chat active now. We're going to be watching that chat the whole way through. So any questions that you have, whether they're REsimpli questions, launch control questions, or collaborative questions on how to get the two systems to really work best for your business, pop them into the chat, and we will, if we don't get to them in real time, we'll absolutely get to everything by the end. To do a quick introduction, I'm Michael. I'm the VP of Media and Strategy at Launch Control. You guys have probably, if you've attended any of our webinars or watched our podcast, Deal Nation, you've probably seen my bald head around. And then Sharad, who is the founder of REsimpli. So we got the big man himself on. Sharad, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
Doing great. And
I'm
I
excited to
really
be here, man.
appreciate you coming on. We've had some great conversations, you and I, either at events or just in the biz dev sense. And we're here because there's tons of opportunity to get these two systems to really be fine-tuned and working well together. And then, of course, we're joined as well by Mia Collins, who is one of our leads on the Launch Control customer success side. So anybody that comes in, starts working with Launch Control, you're going to connect with Mia and her team, and they're going to be able to, anything that you're not quite sure how to set up that we talk about today, her team's going to be your go-to for that. They'll help you guys get everything set up.
Absolutely.
All right, so Sharad, Mia, you guys ready to really dive into this thing?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right, so for everyone, here's what we're going to talk about today. When you're an investor, whether you're doing wholesale investing, land investing, whichever side of the distressed property market or distressed market you're in, really growing a business and scaling it up, the center point for any of those businesses is your CRM, right? Because that's where, as you scale up and you start doing not just text and cold call, but you start doing direct mail. From direct mail, you get into PPC, maybe even get to the point that you're doing TV, radio ads. All of that marketing is going to, on the front end, funnel into your CRM. And when you start to get those deals, when you get those deals closed and you need to find buyers, all of that mechanism is done via your CRM. It is really the money generating engine of your business. And so we're gonna, and the money tracking engine of your business. So we're gonna start with REsimpli. We're gonna start with the foundation, and we're gonna have Sharad go through this, give you guys a very high level demo of the system, and then we're gonna go right back to the beginning of the funnel. And Mia and I are gonna go over launch control. We'll give you, again, a very high level demo of that. And what we're gonna try to do is show you some places where you wanna really get those two systems to sync up, to talk to each other, because it's going to give increased efficiency for your business. It's going to save you a ton of time, and it's going to make you a lot more money. Okay. And then the last big section that we're going to talk about is we're going to really talk about how to find a bunch of hidden money, like $200,000, $300,000 a year, if not more, sitting in the leads that you already have by doing really elite level nurturing using the best qualities of both systems. And then finally, we're going to open it up for Q&A. Anything that's in the chat, we're going to spend the time, get to absolutely everyone's questions, and make sure that you guys are off and running in both systems. Now, I do want to leave this here for you very quickly before we jump in. If any of you are attending from Launch Control and you want to grab this now to connect with the REsimpli team, you can do that here with this QR code on the right. Vice versa, if you're here from the REsimpli team and you want to connect with the Launch Control team, go ahead and grab that now. We'll put it up again at the end. And if you stick around to the end, we've got some really great bonus offers for you guys. I'm just going to leave that as a teaser, sorry, but we'll give that to you at the very end of this one. But you guys get some really, really solid deep discounts from both teams. All right, so with that in mind, Sharad, you want to share your screen? And
sure. And Michael, just to recap, Ian mentioned that the QR code for launch control did not work. So if you want to look into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
I'll ping the team. We'll check into that. And
Cool.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
so.
yes.
All right. Cool. As Michael mentioned, my name is Sharad. I am the owner and founder of REsimpli, also an active investor. I live out here in north of San Diego in Carlsbad, California, but I invest in Northwest Indiana market. For anyone not familiar, it's right outside of Chicago. I used to live in Chicago. That's why I picked that market. So I started REsimpli back in 2017, 18, or a couple of years after I moved to San Diego. I was still investing in that market. So my goal was to build something where I could run everything from one platform. I could have really good KPIs and super simple to use. So today I'm just going to go over the CRM part of REsimpli. I've said this on many, many calls. For us at real estate investors, the heart and soul of our business is marketing. It's essentially a marketing business. As long as we're marketing in our business, we're getting leads, we're converting those leads into deals, and that's how we make money to keep doing it all over again. So we're known best as a CRM. So I'll just give you guys a quick demo of the CRM part of it. Let's say if you guys are using Launch Control, you have leads coming in, you push those leads into REsimpli, it'll come something like this. Let's just say this is a sample lead that comes in. It'll tell you what campaign it came from. So in this case, it'll say Launch Control. And then if you have different campaigns set up in Launch Control, you can map that to marketing campaigns in REsimpli. It'll come in, and then you can see when the lead was created, the seller's name, phone number, the phone number type, and then any exchange that you've had, any notes that you have, any call recordings that you have, or any other notes that you've added will all be added right here. You can listen into the calls, you can make calls, send text messages, send emails, and everything will log in right here. So you don't have to go into any other system. And as you add any property address, as you input any property into REsimpli, we're pulling all the data from public records to show you the owner information, the mailing address, any value information that we have, any assessed information, mortgage, last sale information, if it was ever listed on the MLS, who was the agent. So we pull all of that data. And then in addition to that, you have your lead intake form. If you filled out anything, whether it, like you can set up these customized tabs for your business. And then if you're using REsimpli for list stacking, we map that data against your list stacking to see if this property was already existing in your database. So for example, if you have a stacked list that you're marketing to from Launch Control and you push one of the leads over, then we can tell you, okay, this property happens to be in your, let's say, absentee list, probate list, tax delinquent list. So this way you get a little bit of idea where your leads are coming from, which specific list your leads are coming from. And then as you are working your leads, we track, when the lead was created, how long it's been in your pipeline, when did you go on an appointment, if you made an offer on a property. So for example, if I go to one that's a little bit further down the pipeline, okay, let's go to this one, for example. So in this case, it's telling me that the lead has been in my pipeline for 157 days. It was created on Jan 6. We did not go on any appointment. We made an offer. How much did we make an offer for? When did we get it under contract? How much did we get it under contract for? And what is our expected profit? When do we expect to make that profit? And then this is where a property address with some information filled out. This is what it's going to look like. So the goal here is that you're working your leads, you're staying in touch with them, calling, texting, emailing them. And as you're performing that activity, any text that you have, any calls that you made, everything will be right here. So you can click right here, listen to any call. You can grade the call, summarize, get all the call transcript, all the information for that specific lead. And then you can upload any files that you have for that property, your task and appointments. You have everything from your Google Calendar. You can sync up your Google Calendar. You can include all your tasks. And then as you're working the leads, let's say you get a property under contract, you can send out documents for e-sign, get them e-signed within the platform. Another cool thing we do is, let's say you have a property address. So for every single property address, we scrub that property against the public records to tell you if that owner has any other property. So in this case, This owner has 102 other properties. 3 of those are already in leads, and these are 99 other properties that we found from public records that are not in leads right now. But then if you're talking to the seller, let's say push a lead over, you're talking to the seller, notice that the seller has a bunch of other properties. You're like, hey, if you don't want to sell this one, I might be interested in 1026 170th Street, for example. And then you can see the total properties, estimated value, loan amount, and estimated equity on that property. So we get a pretty good insight into that. And then you can see how many times you've called, texted, sent any ringless voicemail, email, or any direct mail that you've sent. And when you hover on it, it tells you the last date of message, call, and when did you make that call. So that's kind of a very high level overview of lead detail. One thing that's super, super critical that a lot of our investors are using is the follow-up sequences, the drip campaign sequences that you have. So you can build out these drip campaigns in your business to completely automate your follow-up. So for example, let's say if you have a lead where you made an offer, but you did not actually get in touch with these. So you can build out these follow-up sequences, drip campaign sequences to stay in touch with that lead. So as part of the drip campaign, these are the actions that you can perform. You can send out direct mail as part of the follow-up sequence. You can send out an SMS. You can do a task reminder, ringless voicemail, email, webhook trigger, tags, status automation, and something that we just recently rolled out. You can actually have an AI make the outbound call on your behalf. So you can build it out and fully automate your follow-up sequence. So let's say if you have a lead that you push over from launch control into RESimpli, and you have really good conversation, you make an offer on the property, and it happens, unfortunately, more often than you would like. You make an offer, and then the seller is nowhere to be found. So you can create a drip sequence, call it, offer made but can't reach, and then you can have these follow-up sequences be built out where it's sending text messages and reminding you to call, or you can even have AI make a call. You can have AI just keep making calls every day, every other day, and then you can build out these different sequences, and they can go on for forever. You can build out as many sequences, as many steps as you want, and there's no limit to how many steps. We have some investors that have these sequences built out for 3, 4, 5 years. And then you can even do it where, let's say, if you have a very aggressive sequence that goes out for a couple of weeks, after that, you can have it move to another drip campaign. It can go from an aggressive drip campaign to one that follows up with them every other week for a couple of months. And after that, it follows up with them once a month, and it just keeps going on forever and ever. So you can have it, you can have that automated sequence. So this, I would say, if you've done business long enough, you'll notice majority of your deals are going to come from the follow-up. That I would say is probably one of the most important parts of any real estate investing businesses, to have a really good follow-up, whether you do it manually, whether you have something like RESimpli to automate it for you, but you want to make sure you're staying in touch with those sellers. If someone calls in and says you get a lead pushed over from launch control, you have a good conversation, but they say for some reason, let's say you want to offer 150,000 and they will not take anything less than 250. You don't want to move that to a dead lead. You want to make sure you stay in touch with them. It could be something like, hey, Mr. Seller, I know we talked about buying your property. You wanted 250, but we were at 150. Just stay in touch with them once a month, right? Just send them a text message, give them a call. That is the most important part of a drip campaign, is to make sure you stay in touch with them. You're just staying in front of them. They want 250 now, but you don't know what's going to happen with their situation. Maybe they fall behind on a mortgage payment, their car breaks down, or they unfortunately have a medical situation where instead of 250, now they're more motivated. They have other motivating factors, and they're willing to accept the offer of 150. But you only have an opportunity to make an offer on the property if you're staying in touch with the seller. The main purpose, in my opinion, with drip campaign is to stay in touch and stay in front of these sellers. You're not necessarily trying to create motivation, but you're just staying in front of these people. So when their motivation changes, they give you an offer to make, they give you an opportunity to make an offer on their property. And then recently we rolled out a bunch of AI agents. So we have some AI agents built out that can answer call for you. This AI agent can make outbound call for you. This one is built out where if you get a web lead into your business, this AI agent will immediately call. So let's say if you're doing marketing through launch control, and someone wants to find out, hey, what's your website? I want to check out. You give them your website. They actually fill out a form on your website. So this AI agent, from the time they fill out a form, will call the seller in 5 seconds and have a conversation. And after that, you can choose to have the call be transferred, book an appointment, or just let the seller know someone is going to call back. And this is a conversational AI that we built out, super simple to use. Any lead that you're having a conversation with, that you're following up with, you can have AI take over the conversation. The purpose of the AI will be to just book an appointment, get the seller on the phone, or just set up an in-person appointment for you. And then we have a couple of sales AI. One is an AI agent that's going to grade every single call that you have incoming and outgoing. It gives you a grade, a detailed score based on how did your team member, lead manager, acquisition manager performed on that call, and what are the things that they can improve on. And then similarly, we have one called Meet Grade AI, which is if you guys go on in-person appointment, you can open up your REsimpli app, tap a record button. It's going to record your in-person meeting. You walk around the house with just your phone out. It's going to record everything. And once you're done, it gives you a summary of that meeting, key highlights from that meeting, and it gives you a score also with some ideas on what you could have done, a detailed breakdown of the score. And Lead Score AI is an AI that scores every single lead that you have based on your specific business. So it's giving you a unique score based on your business. And then the KPI Insight AI is an AI dashboard that actually, or AI that analyzes your KPIs and then gives you actionable insight onto what you can perform. So you have a bunch of KPI dashboards built out. So this AI actually analyzes that dashboard, gives you actionable steps. And then the Translate AI, if you're communicating with a seller through who speaks Spanish, they send you a text message in Spanish. This AI is going to translate that text from Spanish to English, and then you can type it up in English. And then before you send out, it's going to translate that into Spanish. So you could have a conversation with someone who speaks Spanish and you don't speak any Spanish. So you can have a Spanish conversation with that person. So again, the purpose of the CRM is to make sure you stay in front of those leads. That is the most important thing. The leads that you come into your pipeline, you want to make sure you're staying in front of them and you have a way to see what stage they're in. You're going to have some leads that you're trying to get in touch with. You have some leads that you're going on appointments with, some that you're making an offer on, some that you're following up an offer on. That's what a good CRM is supposed to do. It's supposed to make sure that you're staying in front of all of those leads based on their given situation that we have. So I'm going to take a pause. That was a very high level overview. So any questions, Michael, you have, or any questions in the chat?
Well, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I would love to go back to a single contact record and take a look at that right side where you're seeing all of the collected touch points that have gone out.
Let me go into one that had some information. Okay.
Yeah, the reason I bring this up, guys, because it is, regardless of the size of your business, whether you are a solo entrepreneur or you are a Fortune 500 company, having this view of being able to see every touch point that your company has had with an individual gives you so much insight. In Launch Control, for instance, when you sign up with Launch Control, you're going to...
Did Michael just freeze for me or for everyone?
I think we just lost Michael for a minute.
Oh no, I know he's in Greece, so maybe he's having a little bit of, hi, Michael, you're back?
Yeah, I think so. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You're good
You
now.
froze there for
Where
a
did
second.
I drop off?
When you
You were
sign up
just
for
talking
Launch
about
Control.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you sign up for Launch Control, you're gonna talk to our sales team first. They're gonna understand find out about your situation as a business, what your goal structure is, what you want to achieve. And then when you talk to Mia's team, we want that message to transfer over to her and her team so that they're already 2 steps ahead with you and your business. So you're not starting over. It creates a much better experience for you as the customer. Right? And in your business, it's really no different. The seller is someone who you want to be able to track every touch point that the organization, your company has sent to them, because you want to know what their experience is like. And what you're always aiming for as a business is, how can I shorten that experience, right? Especially in a business where your end goal is to purchase a property, right? with the exception of, and I'll get to this in a second, finding somebody that has 99 properties, the vast majority of the deals that you're doing in a wholesale situation are a single property, right? So you want to shorten the path from point A to point B as much as possible. And what you see on that screen gives you a ton of insight. And Mia and I are going to talk about some ways to shorten that distance as well when we go into launch control in just a minute. But the campaign builder that Shrad showed you, like when you look at this insight, you see it took 15 touch points to close the deal. It took 25 touch points to close the deal. You can start getting into iterative or A/B testing to try different touch points, different sequences, so that you can shrink that down as much as possible. So the ability to be hyper efficient just by analyzing what you're seeing here is really amazing. And it's something that I would suggest that everybody do for their business on a pretty consistent basis, is to look at these metrics and look at ways that you can fine tune it. Would you agree with that, Shrad? Have you seen some examples of people that have done that and been able to eke out a higher percentage of deals for their business?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to be able to, like, I'll give an example, like kind of as you were talking about, taking good notes. Like imagine you have a conversation with the seller and the seller mentioned, hey, I need to cancel an appointment because, my dog just died, for example, right? Like if you do not take good notes of it, and let's say you totally gloss over that, and you call the person a week or two later, and you don't even like bring that up, versus a seller who shows a little bit of empathy because they've taken notes and then they can reference to that. So for example, like you can pin notes. So before you call, you kind of want to reference to this, whatever notes you have, something significant that happened in this case. Let's say if the seller's dog passed away, you want to say, hey, Mr. Seller, again, very sorry to hear about your dog. Let us know if there's anything we can help. If it's the right time to reschedule the appointment, we can talk about it now. Or if you want us to call back, we can do that. Versus a seller who calls back, hey, we were supposed to have an appointment. When can we reschedule? Like intent, the purpose of the calls, two calls is the same. But one where you're taking good notes, you have references to what's happening in your business. Oh my God, like just imagine how much difference it's going to make where you're building a rapport with the seller. You know exactly the conversation that you have. And even like something about, let's say you have a conversation with the seller. Seller calls you and gives you all the information about the house, what's going on with this situation. Like in our case, we're recording every single call. And then you can click a button, you can have an entire summary of that call with information on what happened with that call. And then we break down the summary based on the reason for selling. Like imagine if you don't have those notes and you don't take good notes. You're calling them from your cell phone and you call them the next time you have like 5 conversations with different sellers. You call seller number 1 and then you have no idea what you talked about, or you're trying to like remember from your memory and then you're asking the same questions. Like it makes you look so unprofessional. So just to be able to have everything organized in your business, and then you can follow up and know exactly where each situation is, each seller is, it makes a world of difference. Rather than having to just do generic follow-up, you're doing specific follow-up with each seller based on their situation. This is what we noticed. The teams that are doing 100, 200, 300 deals a year, that is what they're doing, is they're very, very particular about their follow-up and then intentional about taking good notes and being able to follow up based on the relevant conversation they've had.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that basically right now. So Mia, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, we'll go into launch control, talk about that. One thing I wanted to highlight though, before we get there, Shrad, is you showed that one owner that had something like 99 other properties or 92 other properties. I don't remember the exact number, but he was big. All right. Being able to access that information and base a strategy around that information before you go back to the owner so that you're not caught unaware in that conversation is incredible. We had very early on, when I first started the launch, this is maybe like 6 years ago, I remember talking to one of the investors and he didn't have this information, but he'd been working this lead in the Phoenix market for months and just, getting the touch points in, building trust. And finally, he gets the owner to agree to sell him this property. And on that same call, the owner said, by the way, I've got 14 other houses in the area. Do you want to just buy the whole lot? Do you want to buy all 15? And so he wasn't able to form a strategy around that. He just had to kind of not gasp on the call and go, yeah, we can do that. Give me X amount of time to put the numbers together. Right. But imagine knowing that going in. Imagine knowing.
Oh my God. Totally different conversation.
Totally different conversation. So
yeah,
it just, as you said, to be able to walk in with strategy, that accomplishes exactly what I was saying of like shortening the line, right? Like walking in with strategy will do that. All right, so we're gonna keep on that track of having your strategy right from jump, right? So this is for everybody that's not familiar with the launch control dashboard. This is a launch control dashboard. This is a very old dummy account that I use just for this sort of thing. So there's a reason you'll see a couple of zeros or low numbers on there, is because it's not live, it's not active. But we can go over the feature functionality here. So Mia, the first thing that I'd like to go over is, let's look at the campaign page.
Of course. Here we are.
Guys, when you import data into launch control, I'll tell you what the cardinal mistake that everybody makes, not everybody, but a lot of people make going in, is they think of text engagement as a mass outbound tool. This is where you get the phrase text blasting from. If any of you who are listening on this podcast use the phrase text blasting, I'm going to send you that meme of a guy with his hand on his hips, just shaking his head. Like, I hate that phrase, and it's the wrong approach, right? So what you want to do is instead of kind of blending into that white noise and looking for ways to just send out a bunch of messages quickly, look for ways to bake your strategy in right from the beginning so that you're 10 steps ahead of the competition, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples of just how you can actually because the campaigns here, this is your strategy library, right? Think of it like a file folder cabinet, and you've got 10, 15 different distinct strategies that you follow, and you're coordinating your efforts according to strategy, not as that story that we just told of the guy that stumbled onto 14 extra houses and having to then come up with strategy later. You're walking in with strategy because you're trying to frame a conversation around who you as best that you can come up with, know who you're talking to. So let's just look at the top one on the list, right? Tampa. Okay, that's your core market, right? You could break it down farther than that, but let's just go with core market Tampa. And then you've got low distress. Okay, so this is a motivating factor that you know from any list that you can pull. This would be like high equity, free and clear. You know that they're not in any kind of time crunch. So that's going to frame the conversation right away, right? You know what your market is, what the homeowner motivation is based off of list select parameters. And then we're going to drill it down a little bit more. And we're going to say, this is people in the Hyde Park area. Now, you know your market backwards and forwards, right? So you know, like, you get a visual in your head. Oh, I know what Hyde Park looks like. I know what those homes look like. I've sold to buyers. I know buyers who are interested in that neighborhood. I have an idea of who I might be able to sell to. But here's the problem. Hyde Park, maybe those homes are not at the highest distress level, right? Either the homes, or in this case, the owner, certainly not at the highest distress level. So maybe for some of these, you're thinking, flip is not going to be my easiest path here. I might need to go have a novation conversation ready to go, right? So you're going in, when you're sending these messages out, 100, 150, you know that everyone that responds, the 25, 30 responses that you get inbound, you clear out a few of those. You've got a good like 10, 12 conversations that are real, active, and ready to move forward. Now you know exactly where they live, what neighborhood they live in, what their motivating factors are, and what your exit strategy most likely would be, so that you go into that conversation ready, right? You're not going into that conversation saying, so are you considering selling, or am I catching you off guard? You're ready, right? Yeah, you need to highlight it, but if we go down one more, this one is just a very kind of classic example of a list that you might go after. Again, your core market, Tampa. This time, money worries. So money worries would be pre-foreclosure. They've got liens on the house. there is a ticking clock. You know that they need to make a decision in the next, say, 60 to 90 days. That's going to change the way you pitch. That's going to change the conversation you have with the homeowner. So when you send messages, think of it this way, right? Every time you send out a text message, you want to be able to have that inbound response fall into a little bucket where you know exactly what the conversation is going to be, right? Because this is ultimately about closing deals, right? These are going to go into the CRM. When they get into REsimpli, you have all these tools to add in these additional touch points. You want to be able to frame those extra touch points based around this kind of information about knowing what your conversation is going to be, because that's going to give you the conversion tools and the conversion talk tracks that you want to get this done. Is that tracking so far with you, Shrad?
Yes. Yeah, no, I thought absolutely. Like this is exactly what we preach, that when you're doing marketing, make sure that you have a way to track through a marketing campaign number where the marketing is coming from. So someone who's coming from a PPC versus an SMS marketing, totally different way to follow up with those leads. So yeah, this is exactly what we talk about, just knowing how motivated each seller is and what is your exit on those properties.
Mia, can you click on one of these so we can see kind of what the
Yes, of course. Here
so we don't, or even one that, an older one where we can actually see a few stats on it.
I was going to say maybe we can do, let me just go back. Maybe we can do one here. I think this one has it.
That's okay.
Okay, let me go back to the other one and then we'll go through there.
So what you'll be able to see, obviously, when you start sending out these messages, right? You're going to see how many got delivered. You're going to see your deliverability rate, of course. How many were undelivered. That's really just that side, the left side. That's really just about the cleanliness of your data, right? If you put in good data into the system, it's not old, outdated, full of numbers that have been reassigned. You're going to see very consistent numbers there. 90+% on deliverability, a response rate of anywhere from 15 or 12 to 20%, depending on the market. It's really a factor of data. But on the other side, well, when you have your total responses and your total leads, that's really more the health of the conversations that you're having, right? Because the end goal is always to get this pushed over to CRM and into your team's hands to have discovery calls. And from those discovery calls, to get into the backside of things, to get into transaction coordination and disposition and all of the areas where you start, as Shrad showed, where you can see expected income, right? We want to turn these conversations directly into expected income in REsimpli. And so this is give you a good idea of how well these are performing.
Michael, would you say anyone, generally the best practice is anyone that raises their hand and say, yes, I have a property to sell, you push them over, or you nurture them a little bit before you push them over? Like what?
It really depends on your team structure. So for instance, if you have somebody who is, if you have, let's say you have a VA, you have an acquisitions person, and then you have, other people running transaction coordination, all of that. It really depends on whether you want them to be super active in here and just like call right away in here, or whether you want to push that over. Go, if you're a big team, it goes into a round robin, it gets assigned. So it's going to depend on your team structure. But if I will say this, like however you structure your business, if somebody expresses interest, you want to pivot to a call as soon as possible. You're not here, and maybe once a year you'll get lucky and you'll basically close the deal via text because nobody wants to, because that person doesn't want to talk on the phone. But in this business, you know this, it really comes down to creating a connection with the seller. We were just talking about money worries, right? If you're going after a money worries list, they're talking to other investors. You're not the only one, right? And so to stand out, to really give proof that you're the best person for them to go with, it's going to be a phone call at some point, right? So you want to pivot that to a call. And again, like depending on your team, it's your decision whether you make that call as a preliminary pre-CRM push or you just push it over and go into protocol.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so with this this idea, go back just to the campaigns for 1 second, Mia.
Of
And
course.
I'm just going to give everybody a quick visual reminder of what we did with the strategy here, of really baking the strategy into the naming, right? So Tampa, out-of-state landlord, water access, flip. Tampa, money worries, pre-2000. Let's say like in this neighborhood, all the houses were built before the year 2000. It gives you an idea of what your returns might be, again, who your end buyers might be. Maybe you'd even want to buy it and fix one up and do a fix and flip, right? Gives you some insight. Your strategy's there in the naming, okay? So we're going to do the same thing with a lot of mirroring in our templates, the messages that you're going to send out. So, I mean, do you want to go to templates quickly?
Yes, of course. Here we go. There we go.
Can you just do a drop down on the first couple so we can see them?
It'll be one by one, so we can
yeah,
do
that's
the first
fine.
one and then, yeah, there we go.
Perfect. Okay, so in this one, you know, we've got our neighborhood, Tampa Heights, money worries again, right? Pre-2000, so we know they're older homes. And this we're going to put in an A/B test, right? So for this one, we wrote the messages to be as though they're coming from a company. Maybe you feel like in this neighborhood or in your market, a more professional real estate first approach might be better, right? So, you know, we've spoken to folks near you. We're investing in Tampa Heights, focus on single family homes. It's very real estate focused. I'm not going to read through all the messages, but you guys can take a quick look, get the idea. It's our company, my company. The company name is featured in different parts of the messages, but it's a company first approach. And Mia, do you want to highlight the next set of messages down?
Here we go.
Okay, so you'll notice that the naming structure is exactly the same. The only thing that we did different here is that this is a individual. This was our A test, right? So this is, I'd love to buy a place in Tampa Heights, love those older homes. I've been trying to find a place in Tampa Heights. I was born in St. Pete, or St. Pete born and raised, but, right? So this is more of an individual reaching out approach. So what that gives you the ability to do is, thinking back to that campaign metrics page that Mia just showed you guys a moment ago, you're able to test this out where you're sending to, say, 300, 400 people that are in that market or in that neighborhood, the B test and the A test, and you compare. And again, think about the right side of that screen. What generated more conversations? What generated more real responses? What got you? How many of those leads, and you can track this, how many got pushed to CRM? And if you're looking and out of all those messages you sent, 20% more people that received the individual approach message got pushed to CRM. Well, now you know that in that market, your shortest line, your shortest distance is to take an individual approach. But without that A/B test, you don't, and without those metrics to look at, you don't know, right? So you want to be able to have real data in front of you so that you can make those fine-tuning kind of decisions that get you paid. Think about 20%, right? 20% more leads month over month. And let's say that you got a total of 4 extra deals just from that 20% over the course of the year, right? That's at a national average of $25,000 per deal. That's $100,000 for your business. $100,000 for your business that you made just by A/B testing some messages and launch. That's a big number.
Is that something that are pre-built, or you guys help with these templates, or they have to build their own templates?
We do provide some help, but I'll be honest, I think that the best thing that you can do is, because you know your business, you know your markets, the AI tools like Claude.ai, that's a good one for content in particular. Yeah, obviously Chat GTP, everybody knows.
Right.
I prefer Claude.ai if you're doing anything that's written, any messaging.
Okay.
And we can send you some, we do have some on file, some prompts to create these messages, but you can also go in and iterate your own on the AI.
Right.
The reason that we haven't like built in that level, that specific tool for AI is just because it is so market dependent and so dependent
makes
on
sense,
your
yeah.
voice and what you want to say, right? So
Right.
we do have AI like tools to create the messages, but all honesty, what you're going to get is serviceable messages that you can send out, that you can edit and then send
Right.
out, but they're not going to be highly personalized. And when you look at this
Right.
strategy, when you want it to meet strategy, use those tools, you can achieve that, and you can achieve it pretty quickly.
I would just
Yeah, and
add
then
here.
with
Yeah, sorry,
good, yeah.
Sharad. I just wanted to add a small thing here. And if you do that, we also have the team here that can help you just look over your templates. It takes max 2-3 minutes for compliance wise, and then you're good to go. You know, you have a safe head, safe mind in that case. But exactly what Michael mentioned, everything is specific to your business. But in the case that you would like our team just to review them, we're also here for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with the way people are using like ChatGPT or Claude AI, like it probably knows you better than you know yourself. So it's gonna guide you to build the best campaigns and tell you, oh, you should put this in on that. And so that's a fair
Here's
point.
here's a tip that I got. We work with a prominent land investor. Her name is Callan Faulkner, and she teaches how to implement a bunch of different AI tools into your business. She's really done like a deep dive on this. We did one of these kind of seminars with her a couple months ago. She gave this one little tip that I use all the time in AI, and it works wonders. Give the prompt that you want. You know, I need messages. I need 10 text messages for Tampa Heights. All of the people receiving the messages need to make a decision on their home in the next 90 days or so, but I don't want to pressure them too much, blah, blah, blah. I give them that information. And then before you hit enter, type this sentence. Ask any clarifying questions needed before generating the messages, or some variation of ask any clarifying questions. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask you 4 or 5 quick to answer questions, but the improvements that you'll get by answering those questions, again, the shortest path, that will do wonders
Right.
for getting to the messages that you want as quickly as possible.
That makes sense.
Okay, so Mia, let's go to the inbox and let's talk about prepping to push to CRM.
All right. And is there anything you wanted to say, or do you want me to just take it over here?
Go ahead and run with it, and and you can expect me to jump in because it's me, but yeah, go ahead and run with it.
No, it's all good. Of course, it's always appreciated. So in terms of launch control, what I always tell people is that it can be used kind of like a mini CRM. But in this case, for prepping somebody to go into a CRM, we do have a couple of tools that are really good to use within the inbox. Some of those are tags, notes, and so on. More specifically, let me open up a lead here that has kind of all of those aspects added onto it. And then you'll see how that goes into like one package deal. So here, as we can see, the initial message was sent out. They answered, I'd like to hear more about how this works. We put them in a status and so on. Now, in terms of the tags, the first tag that was added was appointment made. So there was some appointment made for you to call this prospect. There's also a note. So let's say somebody else is taking over the calling or you're doing it, and then you want to keep everything in one centralized place before you push. You can go into notes. That person was called, the price was too high. So the tag right here would be price too high. And then also in the activity section, this is where you can check if you've missed something or if you need to put something else like a status or another tag on the actual prospect before you push to CRM. But this would be a great example of a lead where, let's say my team goes in to do a strategy call, and then we sometimes like to go in the inbox and pull out some leads for our users and say, okay, here's a mislead, here's a mislead there. And then we like to pull out opportunities just to give you guys a little bit more of a push. And then what this helps us as well is I won't come to you and tell you, hey, this is a mislead, because there are tags. I will check the notes and then I will just ask you, okay, what does that process of you calling that prospect look like? That's just from the success sense. You guys know how that strategy works. But this would be a great example of a lead that would be ready to push just so that you guys know what's happening with them before it was pushed. And then you can also nurture further along if you want to regarding the price in this case. I don't know, Michael, if you wanted to add anything else or if you want me to just move on to some more leads.
Well, we can move on. I do want to talk about I want to, when we talk about the tagging feature in particular, I definitely want to get Sharad's feedback on that. So let's look at that really quickly, and then we can look at another lead kind of with the tagging idea in mind and how it relates to REsimpli.
Okay, let me go into the tag section and then we can work from there. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Here we are. And then just before Michael takes over, in this case for tags, you do get 4 predetermined tags that are set within your launch control account. And then for you, you can create up to 10 custom tags within the account. So that's really good. Sometimes we have a lot of questions like, hey, is there a custom status? This would be a sort of custom status or something more further for segmentation for you to know for follow-up campaigns as well.
So what
Yeah,
I
so
wanted
this would
to,
be for,
oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, yeah, this would be for like custom tracking purposes, that something that may be very specific to your business. Yeah, that's exactly what we recommend our investors do.
So that's why I wanted to bring this up, is that, when we looked at the way that we broke down strategy in the campaigns, and we had, the market, the homeowner's motivation, these kinds of things can be used in tags, right? That's an example. Or you could have, for instance, if you were chatting with someone and they said, well, I need to talk to my wife, or I need to talk to my brother or sister or whatever, and you wanted to put a tag that said like, multiple decision makers, and abbreviate that, but multiple decision makers, then you can have that, and it's ways of progressing the conversation. But this is I think a clear opportunity for again, everything's going to go to CRM eventually, right? So if it's going over to REsimpli, is there ways to kind of prep? You can see using notes to prep, because the notes, if you pushed it over to the CRM, the tags will carry over. We'll see what those tags were. So do you see an opportunity for maybe matching up what some of the next steps are going to be once it hits the CRM in launch, so that you're, again, like 2 steps ahead in terms of shortening that distance and getting the quickest close possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're pushing something over, let's use the example as like appointment set or too high, for example. So if you're pushing this tag over, then you want to make sure that the drip campaign that you have in REsimpli, it's set for that specific use case, versus the one that you push over that was, let's say, too high. Then you would want to use a different follow-up sequence about, let's say you made an offer in launch control to someone and it was too high, then you can have a follow-up sequence saying, and you can build as many follow-up sequences, but this one would be, hey, Mr. Seller, I know we had talked about your property, but we were a little bit far apart on our pricing, but I'm still open to it. Let me know if anything has changed. So then you're speaking specifically to the conversation you've had based on the tag that you've added, versus the one that you have an appointment made. You're like, hey, we had an appointment, we had scheduled an appointment, but let us know if we can still come out. I mean, it happens way too often that you set up an appointment and then the seller cancels or whatnot, but it would be a good way to track that. So when you're speaking to that specific seller, you're speaking about their specific situation. I mean, it's like, I'm sure you guys get a lot of spam voicemails.
I think now Sharad is frozen for
Oh, I
if
thought it
it's
was me
just for
again.
me. No, that's for us.
Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that like based on the tags, if you can make follow-up sequences very specific to that, that automatically is going to give you higher response rate. Like with me, we get I get a bunch of spam messages, voicemails. If it doesn't have my name in the transcription or something about me, but I just automatically delete it. So just use that idea. If you send a message to someone and it speaks to them, it doesn't sound like a generic message. The more you can personalize it, that's where like tags are extremely, extremely valuable in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Mia, sorry, that was I took you off on a tangent. I think we both knew I was going to do that, but I'll
That's
let
okay.
you get
I'm
back to
also
it.
like that. Yeah, yeah. No, it's all good, all good. Going back to the inbox. So this is where you would actually create those tags if you were within your launch control account that you'll later on see in your inbox section.
Perfect.
Going back to another lead. Let's do the same thing here. This would be exactly the same. So let's say you sent an initial message and then they answer, definitely open to talking more about this. How do we get in touch? So in this case, this is where you would put the tag cold call for you to be able to cold call them. And then after that call, you can either push the CRM or notes. I always tell people, put your notes in your launch control account. It will give you good visibility, especially if someone surprise calls you on like your call forwarding number within your launch control account. No matter where you search, you'll have the same notes. So it's just more accessible for you. And then, of course, us as CSMs, we always appreciate more information. The more information we have about how your business runs, the more specific and specialized and personalized strategies we can give you on how to make your launch control account run for your business. So for everyone who puts notes, thank you, and tags as well. But yeah, the point there is just to keep everything organized. Although these are conversations that you're building, there's also way more tools, as Michael mentioned here, that you can make it more segmented, more targeted. And then for you as well, once you put these filters, you can do, let's say, nurture, and then from a specific campaign, and then put that specific tag. You can create your manual follow-up campaigns, or if you're looking to just follow up in general, a lot more targeted and a lot more specific. And that's pretty much what I wanted to go over just to prep for CRM. There are some more things on how you can use launch control as your mini CRM, and then we do go over all of that in our strategy and onboarding calls on Success End.
Yeah, Mia,
Great.
that's
Thank you
right.
so
You
much,
can
Mia.
never
Can
take
you
you can never take too many notes. Yeah.
Of course.
never.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's very quickly to wrap up the launch control side of things, and then we're going to talk about how to kind of use the systems together. That'll be a quick 5-minute conversation. Then we'll get to Q&A, and then we'll let you guys get out of here more or less on time. So when we talk about drip automations, which Mia is going to bring up right now, when a lead is not ready to be pushed over to your CRM, because you don't want to clutter your CRM with somebody just not right now, right? Like you're probably going to want to get them closer to a point where they're discovery call ready. So we have drip automations where these text messages, you can set the timing, you can set the message, press play, and it's running in the background. So, kind of what Sharad alluded to earlier, depending on more or less the exit point of the conversation, right? Is this somebody who just said, not interested, not right now? You think that they might sell in the next 6 to 8 months and you want to stay present? Then, you have a value-based drip automation that's keeping your company and what your company can offer them and what differentiates you from the competition in that drip automation. If you have somebody who said, yeah, call me, call me later this afternoon, it gets pushed over to CRM and they're not responding, well, you have the ability to either also drip them here, or keep in mind that everything that is in the inbox, every conversation in the inbox, like do me a favor, if you've got your phone with you right now, just look at any text thread in your phone. It can be with your mom, with your best friend, with a colleague, doesn't matter. Look at that text thread and just kind of scan back and see how many conversations are in there. Okay. That is what the recipient is seeing when they are looking at your messages. They're not seeing this dashboard. They're not seeing the inbox view that Mia showed you guys a moment ago. They're looking at their phone and they're seeing a thread, and they've already started that conversation. They've already been active in that conversation. So if they're not responding in the CRM, and this is now getting to what we wanted to talk about, which is integrating, right? Like if they're not responding in CRM, you don't need to take them out of that sequence. You don't want to take them out of that sequence. You have your touch points set up there to convert that conversation. But if you just want to memory jog them, you just want to get them back, and they have this thread on their phone, just like any of those conversations all y'all have on your phones, that is that one extra touch point of hey, just tried to call you from my office, wasn't able to get through. That one extra touch point on that trusted thread, pre-established thread, might be enough to get them over the line and really get them into your true conversion cycle or system, which is obviously in the CRM.
Yeah, 100%, Michael. It happens. It happens a lot of times. We tell our investors also, like sometimes when you move a conversation from one phone number to another, just the person is so used to responding to a thread, and you send them a new message. You say, hey, this is Michael from Launch Control. They just because they used to referencing everything in a thread, they don't realize it. But if you message them back on the original thread, and you have a much higher chance of getting a response back from that.
We have subscribers or investors that have made thousands of dollars using this exact strategy, even deep into the process of like, hey,
Right.
title company's trying to get a hold of you. Like, where are you, man? Like, just really pointed conversations that are really even down onto the dispo side. It's just, it gives you what Mia and I always say, you never, ever, ever, ever close a conversation. Right? You don't close an open thread. If you've got that entry point to them, keep it open and use it selectively, use it strategically, and it will get you results. The other thing that you and I talked about that I think is a really interesting way to make, honestly, up to a couple $100,000 or more extra for your business is in REsimpli, depending on the size of your shop, you may have direct mail leads coming in, text leads coming in, PPC leads coming in, all of those funneling down to the point of conversion, right? You want to get them onto a call, you want to find out what their situation is, you want to offer them a deal that makes sense for them. And those potential deals can get lost at any point during the conversion cycle. And if you're not able to get them back in a nurture campaign over, say, 90 days and starts getting, your team is really focused more on high priority closable leads that are in front of them, you can export some of those leads and put them back into Launch Control to retarget them. And if that retargeting through Launch Control delivers to you, enough discovery call conversations to, again, close an extra deal or two per quarter, that's enough to add, a couple $100,000 to your yearly haul for your business. And you're really, it's something that you could have a VA on your team do, right? Is once it's set up, it's a plug and play system, but it's something that you can do as part of your systematic approach to closing deals.
Absolutely.
Okay, so guys, what we have on screen, I think, Mia, you guys are able to see the scan and read how REsimpli and Launch Control work well together, right?
I'm
Right.
still sharing. You want me to stop sharing Launch
Yeah,
Control?
go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay.
We'll put my screen
There we
up.
go.
There we go.
Okay, so kind of on
Sorry
this
to cut you
note,
guys off. It's okay, Michael. You know that I have another meeting. If it's all right,
Yep.
I'll just jump off, and then if anything, Michael will let you guys know how to reach out to me or the success team
Thank
as
you,
well.
Mia.
Thank you
Awesome,
as
man.
well.
Appreciate
Bye,
it.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
So we had our teams put together some information. It's free information for really how to get REsimpli and Launch Control to work well together. So I'll give you guys just a second to go ahead and capture that, and then I'm also going to put those QR codes back up for both to talk to both of our teams about getting everything set up. I want to go through and answer any more questions. I saw. I love, there's always somebody that's an iPad. It's not the name, it's always just iPad.
Yeah.
What is the average deliverability or delivery rate? Again, that's going to depend somewhat on the strength of your data, and it's also going to depend a little bit on your market. But if you're putting good solid data into the system, you're typically going to get anywhere from, say, 85 to 93, 94% on deliverability. We are kind of sweet spot of where we want to get you to is about the low 90s. That's what you should anticipate if everything's going really well. The system itself is really consistent. Like if you just put in the same kind of subgroup of data, it's going to return the exact same results basically every time, or very close. if you see any variations, if you're using launch and you're getting like, it'll get flagged if this happens. But if you get like 80% deliverability, it's not the system, it's the data, and we need to diagnose that, right? So it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind that the system itself is quite consistent. Data is the thing that swings it. Any other questions that you guys want to get in? You got both of us live here, so.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions that I answered. Like one question, like, can I
Okay.
make the lead go right into REsimpli without Zapier? So we're working on an open API soon. So Michael will connect with Launch Control team to make sure we have a direct integration to be able to do that. Just click a button and it does that. But we have bunch of people that are using Launch Control and then pushing their leads through Zapier on it. And then we have some automation that you can push if you get a lead from Launch Control through Zapier, then we have a bunch of automation that you can use to do this here. I mean, to have some automation be triggered.
Okay, great. I'd love your opinion on this, Rod. Like, you mentioned not converting a lead to your CRM until you know they're ready to talk. My question is, who's calling them? Cold callers? If so, I guess we need better cold callers.
So it says you mentioned not converting a lead to your CRM until you know you're ready to talk. My question is called a cold call. I would not have, like, if you texted someone and if they've raised their hand, I would have maybe like a lead manager sort of a role person call them instead of a cold caller. I mean, that's what I would do. Just someone who's maybe, like if you're lead manager or somewhere between cold caller and lead manager, you could have your cold caller call them, but I would personally feel more comfortable, more confident if I had my lead manager call them. Because if someone has raised their hand, at that point, it's sort of like a pre-qualified or qualified lead, depending on your business. Uh, that is like after that is already beyond kind of that's what a cold caller would be doing. If someone says I'm interested, then you're pushing it to a lead manager. So I would personally have a lead manager call who has a little bit more information about your business, who's talked to, somewhat warm leads. That's what I would do. That's what I've seen other investors noted good success also. It really depends. Like if in Launch Control, if you have someone that just says, hey, yes, I want to sell, in a lot of cases, those investors are pushing those prospects now into REsimpli as leads and having their lead manager, acquisition manager take over. That's what I would do. I've seen that result into higher conversion than having a cold caller have that conversation.
Yeah, I meant to mention this earlier. Launch Control has, for everything that we showed you today on how to use the system, we have a done for you service called Launch Leads that will do everything that I showed you in Launch Control, right? You won't have to touch it. You just give us the data and some instructions on how you want to segment that data. The Launch Leads team does everything else. Now, what happens occasionally with Launch Leads team is that they're able to get the protocol is they want people to be able to push those leads over to the investor and have the investor call them in 5 to 10 minutes. That in 5 to 10 minutes, preferably 5, you get an exponentially higher conversion rate when you can get them on the phone within 5 minutes. Now, the happy problem that some people run into is that too many leads get pushed over and they don't have time in the window of time that they have for their business to call all of the leads. And so there needs to be kind of a middle ground, right? So what some people have done, and I'd love your opinion on this, Sharad, but I do think it's fair, is that you really just want to move them down the line a little bit. So if you're having somebody call and you give them direct, like set limitations on what they can cover. So basically I get on the phone and I say, let's say Melinda, Melinda, I'm calling from, REsimpli Home Solutions. What we want to get you, I want to get you on with my coworker Sharad in just a minute here, or very soon, later today, whatever. He's really an expert in your market, or he's really an expert in the area. He's worked with a ton of homeowners near you, but I just wanted to capture a couple little quick things for him so that you don't have to kind of explain everything to him. You guys can just really get down to talking about solutions. right? And all they're doing is basically doing like a verbal form fill, but that verbal form fill gets them into your company and understanding that they're kind of being taken care of. Oftentimes that is enough to really get them engaged with your company and keep them engaged from the CRM level. Ideally you want somebody in your organization, your acquisitions manager, or even yourself if you're running a smaller shop, to be the one having the real in-depth discovery call, because that takes nuance, right? You have to be able to mine for motivation. You have to be able to pause in all the right places. You have to be able to problem solve on the fly if they give you a curveball. It's not something that you want a cold caller doing, but again, like you give your cold caller a protocol and certain limitations, and that can be enough to kind of move them down the line. Does that make sense, Shrad?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think in those cases, I would say one of the most important thing is to quickly get them on the phone. Like imagine like, you're negotiating, you're talking to someone who wants to sell their house, and then like the speed to lead is so important. The sooner you can get them on the phone, it's amazing. Like someone who is interested in selling their house, you would think that they would have a lot of motivation when, and anytime you call them, they would want to talk to you. But I don't know what happens with homeowners. Then they get distracted and their other priorities come up in their life. So if someone raises their hand, I would try to get them on a call as quickly as you possibly can, just so that you have a little bit more information on that. And at that point, if you can do ideally a live transfer to someone who can close the deal for you, acquisition person who can just, while you have them on the phone, maybe get another commitment from them for a phone call or for an in-person meeting, and then just do it for a very with as quickly like within the next 24 to 48 hours. Like that you can do. As if you have someone who raises their hand, says I'm interested, get them on the phone, and then within 24 to 48 hours or same day if possible, like go and look at that house and then try to move it. You'll have a much higher chances of converting versus if you say, oh, we're busy right now, let us call you back in a week, right? Or even if you say, let us call you back later today, you have much lower chances of getting in touch with them versus if you just call them right away and try to go same day or within 24 hours.
Yeah. Okay, so if nobody has any more questions, we're going to wrap things up. I did put this out as a teaser. Sharad, you guys have a pretty great discount for people coming in and just getting started, or a pretty great offer, right, for people coming in and just getting started with REsimpli?
Yes, so anyone that's starting out, they get 50% off the first month. If they use the QR code, yeah, they get 50% off the first month, and then they get, depending on if they sign up for a monthly or annual plan, anywhere from 14 to 30-day trial with us.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, on the other side, the QR code on the other side, if you were brand new to launch and just getting started with the team, scan that QR code or the link that I dropped in the chat, and you will get buy 2 months, get one free, and the team will help set that up once you get signed up. And then if you are already a Launch Control user and you want to get started with Launch Leads, the done for you service, so that again, you can just outsource all of that text marketing to them. Signing up with Launch Leads will get you a 30% discount on your Launch Control subscription, whichever subscription that you're on. So yeah, you can combine the two, and you can have a discounted quick start 90 days to really bring in a new influx of deals.
Awesome, Michael.
All right. Well, thanks everyone.
No, that was great.
All right. Appreciate it, everyone. We're going to wrap this one up, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.